Does anyone have any questions? I just had one question about the Sirius bundler. I wrote about it in our group too. Are you okay with disabling PVG validation in your bundler, because getting exact values for PVG is kind of hard, and becomes even harder on L2s, where this value depends on L1 gas price?
Yeah, I mostly agree with what is written in the chat, but I didn't get to it yet. I think I will check it today or tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. If it's a problem, we can disable it, or we can set some kind of tolerance. I am not sure what will be the best strategy. So yeah, I can set it as an option for testing. I'm not sure if this will be viable in production.
Like, does everyone have PPG validation? Because Kanda doesn't. So
Yeah, Volter does. Yeah.
okay.
I think for these sorts of things, especially things that are dynamic, like PVG, fees, those fee fields, like bundlers should be willing to accept kind of like a range of values, especially on L2s, for at least for PVG. So there should be like a kind of a calculation that goes on in a bundler that says, hey, this is the minimum PVG that I'm willing to accept because it's within, 50% of what it should be, just so I know I'm not going to do this simulation without a reasonable chance of actually bundling this operation. And then obviously bundlers then need to like actually do the PVG calculations based on current gas prices to see if the user operation is priced correctly for bundling when it comes down to bundling time. But in terms of actually like rejecting user operations before putting them into the mempool, I think should be a little bit more lenient of a process than kind of like a exact, does this operation have more PVG than this value that we're calculating at this exact moment?
Yeah, agreed. That was the only question. Yep.
The only thing I have, has anyone tried to build an estimation algorithm for Paymaster post-op yet for V07? I'm a little concerned about the amount of resources it might take to actually estimate Paymaster post-op, because it runs after execution. So you have to, if you're trying to do like a binary search for it, you have to run estimate, or you have to run execution every single time. And that can be super, that can use a lot of gas. I mean, everything can use a lot of gas, but if you're not even estimating execution at that point. You're only estimating post-op, and then you're trying to get to it, but you have to run through execution every time. I'm just curious if anyone's tried to build a helper contract or some way to estimate paymaster post-op that is a little bit easier, or at least uses less execution call gas. Has anyone looked into that yet?
No, we haven't reached this stage yet.
Okay, well, I'll ask around too. I think the solution might be to try to, similar to the entry point simulations contract, to write a helper contract that does the binary, that does the binary search, runs execution once and then does the binary search. Hey, Dror. I was actually just asking, and I'm curious if you have thoughts on estimating paymaster post-op for V07. It seems like it has its issue is that it happens after execution. So trying to run a binary search that actually runs the paymaster post-op is super complicated because it happens after execution. So then you're running execution every time before you get to run this little paymaster post-op part. Well, not always little, but whatever it is. So I was curious if anyone had thoughts on a way to do that such that it's not going to use a ton of resources for the bundler every time we're trying to estimate paymaster post-op. You're muted. Joe, you're muted.
Sorry. No, first of all, we didn't think about it. We thought more it's gonna be quite static value. Probably the paymaster will calculate it off-chain manually, like doing estimate gas. It can't be completely deterministic because it is run as path of execution. That is, if it depends on execution, there's actually no way we can guarantee in any way that it is correct. So yes, it's in an estimate gas that the paymaster will do for itself. When you describe the issue, there is a possibility for a paymaster to do it by no, actually, I don't think first of all, we didn't add it as an estimated value. It is possible to use your method in doing on-chain bisection, but again, it can't be fully deterministic in any way. So I don't think we should try to have a methodological way to do it, but rely on estimate gas that the paymaster will do for itself.
Yeah, I think so. In the updated spec, I think ERC, the ETH estimate user operation gas, returns it. Yeah, it does return it. So it does make the user think that that value should be estimated by the bundler, which is turning out to be a little bit annoying for us to implement.
Two things. Yes, you could estimate it. You could write the estimate gas. You could write a bisection running the entire code and trying to find the best value for it. The point is that there is no way for you as a bundler to guarantee the value that you give.
Yeah, it's the same as execution gas.
Yes. It's even more so, because when an application asks you to, when you estimate a user operation for the application knows the execution, how deterministic it is, let's say, and know how much it can trust it. Like if it's a swap and there could be some liquidation issue, the gas might fluctuate. It knows how to handle that. Mm-hmm. But there's no entity to handle this post-op possibility of different values. It is the paymaster itself. So, there's a combination of, one, it's very hard to calculate it, and two, it is very variable value, but that we cannot guarantee in any way. We as entities outside of the paymaster itself.
Yeah.
So the paymaster should, when it feels that value, it should estimate it.
Yeah. So I wonder what we should do about that API then. I mean, we included it in the return values because the bundler can estimate it, but the hard part for us is trying to tell people that they should be estimating it themselves and not relying on the bundler every time, or the bundler really needs to be told not to estimate it. If we do implement some sort of implementation for post-op estimation, we need a way to skip it when the user doesn't already has a value that they're going to use for it. And I think I brought this up in the past with verification gas limit, and even paymaster verification gas limit.
Verifications is different because verification depends on the current state. Because of the validation rules, it's quite stable. As I said in the past, I don't think it needs to be sectioned.
No,
it can depend on the gas left, gas limit, and everything. So you trace, you find the value, and this is it.
No, I agree. But what I was going to say is that I think for most validation functions that are happening, there's actually an easy to calculate upper gas limit without needing to run anything that the client can do, and just say, hey, it costs 100,000 gas. But it's usually 95, but I'm just going to set 100,000 gas for every time. I don't even need to run estimation ever, because I know I'm just doing a signature check or something like that. I'm doing a couple storage reads and a signature check. And so I'm trying to limit the amount of calculations that the bundler has to do, because the bundler does the same estimation procedure over and over again for estimating a very static piece of code, especially if it's just doing a signature check. So one thing I'm thinking about for our API, but it will require some standardization, is for ETH estimate user operation gas, that API, that RPC. If the user supplies gas limits, so if they send a verification gas limit, if they set a paymaster, post-op, whatever, the bundler won't actually attempt to estimate. It'll just run once with those values and let the user know if those values are valid, and it'll use them in other estimations.
I think that's what I meant, and I thought that was the text is saying, that if you provide gas values, they are not estimated. If not, it needs to be figured out. Okay.
I might just add maybe add a sentence that makes that more explicit. Just say if they're provided, they're used exactly as is and returned. And I think one thing we're going to try to do on the Alchemy side for our bundler API is eventually make it cheaper for API users to provide values, and so it'll incentivize them to come up with their own gas limits for things that are very static, and make the actual estimation part be only for dynamic values, like execution, for example. If you're executing something that's a little bit more more dynamic, and you're using just a simple EOA as your signer, and you just want to do a simple signature check, you don't need to estimate that, right? You know that it's going to cost a specific value. If you're using a paymaster, that paymaster team has likely calculated a pretty known value for both of their gas limits, because those things are typically not very dynamic.
Yes and no, because if you have a permissionless token paymaster, a permissionless token paymaster probably will not, in order to be permissionless, it has to swap the tokens back to ETH to work.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to be efficient, it will not do it on every transaction, but every nth transaction. And it will do it out of its own expense. That is, it is not based on it's not that move it all to the user, the last user to pay. The user pays a fixed fixed or whatever fee a markup above the real value, and once every 5, 10 transaction or time determine it will do a swap.
Yeah.
The point is that it means that it has to have a high post-op gas limit, which in turn, just thinking out loud, it always has to pay for it because it's an excess gas. So the best way for it is to know just before the transaction what post-op gas limit to put, but that is very, very difficult. It has to be static. The point is that we need a way, I'm trying to think that how to communicate with the paymaster service to determine a gas. Like have a semi-standard way for the application to ask the paymaster, give me the post-op gas limit. Maybe this is a view function in the paymaster that application can use to get a value, and the value can be either fixed or tell the user, okay, perform an estimate gas for this. Something that you can estimate gas for. Either the real post-op or post-op, and give it some context that the paymaster knows how to handle for gas estimation.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I'm thinking around gas estimation, is trying to make it a little bit more, I guess, modular, or just a little bit more kind of compartmentalized. You can figure out which pieces you need to estimate and use static values for ones that are easy. But yeah, for paymaster post-op, I do think it does sound like there are potentially times where it needs to be dynamically estimated. I'm having a hard time coming up with a simple algorithm to do that. It might involve trying to do an on-chain binary search where like we run execution once and then we do an on-chain binary search.
No, but the point is, as I said earlier, you are optimizing your bundler to perform an operation that is highly dependent on the implementation of the token. For example, let's say you do that for a token paymaster and the user submit a transaction, but the post-op gas limit is not enough because this post-op has to do a swap.
Yeah.
You gave him a bad service because there's information gap that you don't have. You as a bundler don't know the requirements of the paymaster.
Yeah.
That's why I'm more inclined to have the paymaster have a get post-op gas limit info function, which will either return you a static value or give you call data that you can call estimate gas with.
So my understanding of what you're saying here is
what I'm saying is that the paymaster will create called information that you pass. Tell the client, okay, pass this into a estimate gas. This is the worst case when we need.
Yeah.
And this is so. And yes, the paymaster will pay for that, for this excess gas, and it will give a better API for the user.
So does it ever make sense for the bundler itself? Like all of our bundler implementations, should we even have an implementation that attempts to estimate post-op gas? And if the answer is no, we should probably just remove it from the API itself, from the return values of ETH estimate user operation gas.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more opinions about that, but my inclination is that we should remove it and explicitly say it shouldn't estimate and explain the reasons.
Yeah.
And
I like that answer.
Again, we're now defining an API for a paymaster to provide this information. It's okay. Let's say the paymaster doesn't have that. Okay, you can always call estimate gas on the post-op itself. No, but it will break. Or post-op is only allowed to be called from the entry point.
And it's possible that it depends on some side effect of execution, which is why you might need to run execution first, like wallet execution first, before you run post-op.
Yes, and it also depends on context. It must have context.
Yeah.
So what?
So you have to run verification.
This view function will return you a context that will cause the post-op to take the gas needed. It doesn't have to be a real context. It is a context for the purpose of estimate gas.
Yeah.
Because post-op it's okay for post-op to test whether it's running off-chain or not.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike validation, which shouldn't. Post-op may. So we are creating a mode for post-op to perform estimate gas. It does require the client to make this strange call. Actually, okay, it's not the bundler's job. My thinking is that it's not the bundler's job to calculate it. We will try to define a standard for calculating it and push the standard to wallets, because eventually it's an SDK or a wallet that will call estimation and such.
Mm-hmm.
So the user doesn't have to know about it, because he will get the best estimation possible. The bundler doesn't have to know about it because it can't. It doesn't know the paymaster at all. And we have this intermediate entity, which is the wallet, or SDK, which will do this for the user.
And how would that SDK actually do this? Like that's also an open question to me, is like how I still haven't thought of a good way to, with a reasonable amount of resources, calculate post-op, because it depends on.
It's a very, very paymaster specific.
Yeah.
So it's either a constant or a method call that can emulates the post-op, and its gas estimation will be the right value.
Okay. So in this case,
so it's an RPC call, an if call,
yeah,
or if estimate that the client has to do.
So in this case, then we'd still be removing paymaster post-op from ETH estimate user operation gas, and we'd rely on some secondary wallet infrastructure to provide that value, either a static or run some sort of estimation themselves.
Anyone think about it? Yoav, what do you think about it? No answer.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was on mute. So I'm not sure what's how you calculate it. I'm not sure how you calculate it on the client side, on the wallet side, but certainly you cannot run estimation separately. We can't have an estimation method for it that executes it outside the context of the transaction. Not only because of the context, but also, the context is very context sensitive, meaning you need to know what this paymaster expects, and as Dan said, it could be affected by execution. So I don't think you can. I don't think you have an estimation method. But how do you calculate it? Need to think about it. Or do you have a way?
What I'm saying is that, first of all, it is a job for me as a paymaster developer to estimate this value.
Yeah,
we agree on that, because it will fail. It will reject. Either way, I will pay. If it's too high, I will pay the excess. If it's too low, it will revert, and I will pay anyway. So I need to have a good estimation. Okay. Now we need a way. Okay. So either I have an off-chain JavaScript or HTTP service to perform this value, which we don't like, or we have some view functions in the paymaster contract itself to give this value, which I think we prefer the latter. Now I'm thinking what this method can be. It can return a constant value. Like if this is the user operation, okay, I know how much the value because I calculated in my test and I baked the constant value into my paymaster. It will return them. Maybe even I have a dynamic calculation and I changed my paymaster to have these values on this specific network. I set these values. Either way, it doesn't matter if it's compiled in or if it's tested and modified. It doesn't matter because it's a view function. I don't even care if it reads storage. The other thing is that, okay, it is complicated, like it requires a swap and whatever. Okay, so let's do an estimate. The only thing I need is a method, either the post-off itself or maybe post-off estimate gas, I don't care, which is supposed to be run only through estimate gas. And the gas it will take, I created this method to take the maximum amount of gas my post-off might take. So if the user estimates that on whatever chain, this will be the maximum value because I created this method in such a way. If I did a bad job and I didn't create this method, me as a paymaster developer, if I created this method wrongly and it doesn't give enough gas, it's going to revert on chain. So there's no entity that can calculate it better than me to know what the fluctuations are. So I don't see any other way to do it. Maybe you do.
No, I think again the paymaster developer is the one that is most equipped to calculate the maximum value for this.
Can you hear me?
Now, yeah, we can.
Okay. I was trying to speak before. Apparently I couldn't. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, I agree, and this is the direction we took with other, like with our previous project as well. The paymaster, in my opinion, as either as an external service or as part of the DApp, should be the one that best suitable to calculate its paymaster cost of gas limit. But regarding pre-verification gas that you brought up before, I think that the pre-verification gas can be estimated both by the bundler and the client pretty efficiently. But we moved on from that, so we can do it in writing after if you would like.
Pre-verification is, but it is also a very long discussion we carry for a long time right now.
Yeah, I know, but I think that because it doesn't really, rely on the execution of the user, only on its, basically on its size and the number of user operations in the bundle, and the parts that are affecting that are, the pre-verification gas are pretty static in the endpoint and doesn't rely on any other parts of the code, on other external contracts, I mean. Then I think that it can be better approximated both by the client and the bundler. But we can discuss it later.
Drew, are you muted?
I'm saying outside, yeah, sorry. It's outside of this context, the pre-verification is completely separate.
So I think that the decision we need to make is whether or not we should remove paymaster post-op gas limit from the response of ETH estimate user operation gas. I think that's probably the most pressing.
Yeah, I think that what I am trying to think is whether we add to iPaymaster a helper method for that, or we add it as a non-normative function, because you could say, okay, the paymaster should define the static value and out of band pass this information. Doesn't have to implement that specific method. Mm-hmm. I think this is the issue here. And is it good enough to have it as an external to 4337? Because it's not a core 4337 value. It is a highly important feature. Just like account execution, which is outside of the scope of 4337 itself, even though, of course, it is required. It's just not standardized there. So I think that's the slack we have here to decide.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with removing it and
Yes, but okay, we're definitely going to remove it from the RPC.
Yeah,
And say that it is not the way to calculate it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think even for now, we probably don't need to modify interfaces, and just rely on out-of-band methods for moving that around.
Yeah, yeah. We will try to write something about the interface of those methods. And the idea is, if they exist, this is the way to do it. If they don't, we can suggest the wallet / SDK some method of estimating it. I'm not sure exactly how. How can you estimate it otherwise? Okay, if this method not existed, okay, leave it open. Find yourself, find a way yourself to put a value.
Yeah,
we can have a better idea. Some constant.
I think that's what most teams will end up using anyway, as a constant.
Yeah. Okay, we'll remove that. One small thing, I wrote it in the group earlier. I want to push forward the page for the testing of bundles of 0.7. So if you can put PR, we'll still maintain the releases / v6 separately. We are at the moment we are rethinking, rewriting the reputation tests, because right now they're very, very heavy and actually don't even fall directly with the spec. So we'll disable these and put new ones. But we do want to move forward to show off the bundles that support 0.7 as a separate Docker image. And yes, Alchemy will be glad that you will join the pages, both of 0.6 and 0.7. I can put it myself, but no, it's yours, not mine.
Yeah, no, we get it. We still have some PRs open to fix some differences between.
Actually, putting it with, if you look carefully, we'll see that the reference bundle right now fails a few tests that I need to fix.
Yes.
The page, which shows that you only 90-something% and then you increase it, is better than a static page that everything is 100%. Much more.
We're perfectionists over here, so we're trying to get 100%.
But the reputation tests are different on 7 than on 6. So, and they will be much simpler, and the bundle currently, or even our bundle, is not fully compatible. So that's fine if it fails these tests.
Yep.
Yeah.
Expect some PRs from us. We're locally on. We have you can look at our branch. We have on Alchemy platform. We have a branch of bundler spec tests that we run off of that has a small diff on yours, and we're currently passing all those. So I'll figure out which parts of it we'll put up PRs for. Most of them are small things like the assert for the response included in a message that wasn't standardized by the spec and is used by the not used by our bundler, and so we fail the test. So we have some PRs for those, or we have some diffs for those sorts of things, and I'll get those PRs up in the next week or so, and we'll get ourselves added to that.
Look, I agree that standardizing on the error messages is bad, but we don't have codes for every single error, so we want to specify a specific error. Maybe okay, we're open for maybe remove the entire string, message string, or just leave, say, okay, this is like a paymaster error, like saying a paymaster and not saying the exact string.
Yeah, I think most of our diff is pretty simple here.
Yeah. Okay.
Nothing else from me.
So we're all good.
I think that's it. See everybody.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
But